Good morning, everyone. Patricia Hayes here with Coffee Time Career Chat. I hope that all is well with you as we start off this brand new week. So excited to be here. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And all that means is I love working with people to help get them to the next level of where they'd like to be so that they can achieve at their highest point, right, in a fully empowered manner. And also making sure that they utilize one of their most underutilized um, uh, not just skill sets, but assets, which is your professional relationships. So making sure you can do that in a way that is empowering, a way that is authentic, and that's sustainable for the long term. And welcome to Coffee Time Career Chat. We do this twice a week, live on Mondays, or I should say, new sessions on Mondays. And we visit the video vault on Wednesdays most of the time. We are approaching the summer, so I will let you know that you will be getting a lot of the vault through the summer months, but also have some other things set up for you, which will be that it will be in some themes so that you can do some work over the summer. So it's not going to be random. It's going to be organized by certain themes so that you can do work that you need to get done through the summer months. And basically, you get a freebie master class in several topics if you follow the coffee chats. All right. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know. But I'll be posting what that series is going to look like over the summer months here in the next week or so that you can get yourself ready and set your calendar. Today, though, we are finishing up for this month are some conversations about speaking up for yourself, about how you can do well by planting, by blooming where you're planted, right? So, what can you do to strengthen yourself to increase your own personal growth and professional growth where you are today? Because so many times we get caught up with what we didn't get done in the past and how we're not sure about what we're going to get done in the future. But here's the thing: what can you do right now today? And so that's what we've been focusing on this month. And in that light, what I'm doing is bringing back a few different topics and I'm putting them in here because today we're talking about self advocacy and speaking up for yourself, because this is something you can absolutely do right now today. And this has always been a two-parter when I've had this conversation. So today we're going to be talking more general about how you can speak up for yourself and things that you might need to be aware of that will help you in your personal and professional growth. And next week we're going to be talking about specifically speaking up for yourself in terms of the workplace, whether it's your business or someone else's business, who you work for, your employer, but how you can speak up for yourself in those environments specifically. All right. So here's the thing. Grab your cup of coffee. We're going to take a minute. It's not going to be too long, but I want to revisit one of my favorite stories that I get to tell often. And the older I get and the further away from it, I realize like how really significant it was for me to take that stance when I did. So here we go. One of my favorite stories from when I was in law school. And it was shortly after, it was probably the beginning of my second year of law school. So first year had gone, first year of law school was a little rough. And I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, is this going to be for me? Even though that's what I'd always wanted, right? So I had literally decided since I was age 10 or 11 that I was going to be a lawyer, even though I didn't know what that looked like at the time. I had no, family members that were lawyers, none of that. But it was for me how I defined I wanted to be able to help people, and it was going to be as a lawyer. So that said, fast forward to my second year of law school where we're first starting out. And anyone who knows me knows that I am very much a giver. I like to engage, be a volunteer, engage in leadership roles and all of that. I've always been that way. And so the same was true in law school, where I had earned a couple of spots in some things and was fully engaged in them. And for some law student association work and different things. Well, at the beginning of that semester, returning, I got called into the dean's office, the dean of students. And basically, he was kind of like, "So, Patricia, we value you, blah, 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 all the usual." But he was really getting to the point of, we really think that you need to focus on your grades and take some time and step away from these other things and to focus on that so that you can be successful. Now, looking back, I'm not going to say that he was necessarily wrong. However, it was just the approach because there I am sitting there like, what am I going to do? And how do I tell? Because me giving back and being engaged is really important as well. Like that is truly a part of who I am. And sometimes through difficult times, those experiences actually fuel me and give me the confidence and support that I need to attack the other areas that I may not be feeling as confident in. So here I was in the dean of students office, second year of law school, basically being told, yeah, you need to step away from these responsibilities with these groups and focus on this. And there I was without missing a beat. I do not know where it came from to this day. But basically, actually, these are pretty much the exact words. I said, respectfully, Dean, I appreciate your input. And it's your job to tell me what I can't do, but it's my job to tell you what I can. And to this day, those words still give me chills and remind me of what it means to be brave, to be courageous, and to speak up for yourself. Now, was he really giving me a choice? No. But I did voice myself. And when we got through the semester, everything was fine. And I stepped back into those roles. But I made it clear to him, and more importantly, to myself, that I believed in what I was capable of. I believed in what I could do. And my taking the actions that I took next was not so much about proving to someone else, even though I'm sure back then I really thought it was, but it was to validate what I really deep down believed in myself. Because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten to that point. As difficult as it was, I would not have gotten to that point because, getting through college is one thing, getting through graduate program and specifically law school is a whole other thing, right? And I tell people that all the time. So there are a couple of things that I want you to take away from that story and from that experience that I think are evergreen. They're issues, they are uh, facts, that are just true to this day, is what I'm just getting at, right? There are some evergreen, issues and realities and truths. That's the word I'm looking for. Truths that are true. Number one is you have to know yourself. You have to know who you are deep down within. I'm not talking about being confident about it because we can know who we are, but we're not always confident. We haven't always quite built up that bravery and that courage that we need in order to take the next step. But you can know who you are and believe in yourself ultimately that you can accomplish whatever it is you set your mind to do. All right. And here's why this is important, because when you are speaking up for yourself, sometimes the only person who is going to know and or believe in you is you. There are those moments. I can speak to them over 20, 30 years of work experience, of life experience, that there comes a time when basically others are going to be a little tepid, a little lukewarm about the goals that you've set for yourself, but you have to know and believe it for yourself. You cannot rely on other people to always be there to to have your back when it comes to believing in something that just doesn't look right, right? Because they don't know what you've been experiencing. They may not understand some of the things, some of the nuances that you have been exposed to, that help you get to the decision of where you are, right? So they're not going to believe, they're not necessarily going to have that level of belief. And guess what? It's not your job to convince them. This is one of those lessons that I wished I had that I had learned much sooner than I did, right? It's not your job to convince people that you can do what you say you want to do. You just show them. It's one of those moments like where actions speak louder than words, and you just go do it. And it's again, you're not doing it to prove them wrong. You're doing it to prove yourself right. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. Come from a different energy space, and it's a great moment where you can speak to the power of who you are as a person and who you want to be, right? That whole being piece. And, we're going to talk in a second about boundaries, but one of the things I want to make sure to share with you is that you should not let others make assumptions about who you are and what you're capable of. You don't have to own that. You do not have to own that. And that's one of those things, particularly as women, we fall prey to so often. And I'm going to be the one here to tell you that you do not have to own that. You do not have to step into those beliefs. And as a matter of fact, you can reject them straight out. Okay. So know yourself. The second thing is that you have to set the boundaries um, of how you interact with people when it comes to you speaking up for yourself. Because that's really what it is. When you start speaking up for yourself and saying yes and or no but whatever it might be, um, you're setting a boundary with someone as to what you not just believe about yourself, but how you want to be treated. It doesn't matter what they believe per se, but it does matter in terms of how they will treat you because of what they believe. Did you see that? Because when people get a certain perception in their head and their mind or whatever, they will treat you according to what they've perceived or what they've believed for you. That is yet another thing you do not have to accept because it means someone's trying to put on you their own beliefs, fears, questions, and you don't have to own that. Um, when you are going to speaking up for yourself and setting those clear boundaries, about what is acceptable for you, what is not acceptable for you, and what you will or will not tolerate when it comes to people entering your space and it's time for you to grow, right? And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to respond? It's not always going to be a pleasant situation, right? Some people are going to be taken aback. Some people are going to really be upset that you even challenge what they say because they believe it so strongly, and they're going to be like, well, who are you to say that this is not the case, right? And so it is an act of bravery. It is an act of being courageous when you speak up for who you are, who you want to be, right? And counter to what someone else believes or thinks. And so that is one of those moments where you're setting up a boundary around who you are, what you want to be, where you're headed, and telling folks, here's where we are, here's the lines. If you're not going to be supportive of it, that's your choice. However, you don't get to come into my space and speak negativity into it, right? Or you don't get to come into my space and tell me what I cannot do. All right. And sometimes that means we have to make adjustments of our own, and we'll talk about that more at work, because if it is something that's a work related and it crosses a boundary when it comes to your values, when it comes crosses a boundary when it comes to your beliefs and your goals, then there may be some choices and some hard decisions that you have to make, right? Been there, done that. whether it's at work, whether it's in a community leadership position. I've served on a number of boards and worked with a number of community organizations in various ways down through the years. And I will tell you, even to this day, there are moments where you have to reach a point and realize, you know what? I have to speak up for where I am in this space and this time. And if it no longer supports who I want to be in this space, then I have to make a decision to move on, to do something differently, and to tell you where the new boundary lies. Okay. What you do not want to do is be silent in that moment, because your silence will be taken by others as acceptance, that it's okay for them to behave this way around you. It's okay for them to believe this about you. Okay. And so you have to make sure that you do make it clear that it's when it's not, right? Make sure you do make just make sure you lay that groundwork. And there's a whole other thing. I've done a whole series about advocacy in general and how it works when you're doing it out in the world for spaces, for organizations, for issues. But what people don't often talk about is what it means to be an advocate for yourself. And that's what we're talking about here today. All right. So you've got to know yourself. You've got to set the boundaries, of your own expectations and where people can or cannot cross, what lines can be set up. And also, one of the things that's really important is knowing how to acknowledge when you need to ask for help. Okay. And here's the thing, people don't often associate asking for help with a uh, with being brave, with being courageous, with being an advocate for yourself. Most of the time, people associate asking for help as a sign of weakness, and that is not the case. Most of the time, it's not the case, because when you know who you are and you know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, where your challenges are, and where you need to be built up, asking for help is a way to speak up for yourself so that you can achieve, so that you can reach the goals that you've set for yourself. Think about it. It's actually more of an act of self sabotage if you don't ask for help and you know you need it. Think about that. If you know you need something, but you refuse to ask for the something that you need, what are you doing and why? That's a whole other conversation. A lot of times that ends up being fear related in whatever way. You're scared of what people think. You're scared of what can happen if you actually get the help that you need, because that's that whole, people think about fear of failure, but fear of success is also a very real thing. Um, all of those things that get encompassed into that get encompassed into that. And so I want you to think about and reflect on those moments where you need to speak up for yourself. And speaking up for yourself includes saying, I cannot handle X, Y, Z on my own because there are insufficient resources to achieve that. There are insufficient support to, for me to be able to get from point A to point B, right? Been there, done that, like I said, both in the workplace, at home, in community situations, all of those things. So it's not some isolated incident where it's like, well, if it only happens here, then that's the only place. No, this is not a compartmentalized issue. This is an issue that will come up in all aspects of your life. And so between knowing who you are, recognizing boundaries that need to be set, and then also knowing when you need to ask for help. Guess what? Asking for help is also a part of boundary setting, because it's letting others know that, you know what, I can only be extended to this line, to this point, before I am going to break or not, or I'm going to be harmed, and that's not allowed. So either we need to bring in new resources or I have to make a decision to do something different. Again, tough conversations, not conversations that everyone wants to hear and not what people want to support. Telling the truth. So it's a matter of you knowing that it's not about being popular. It's not about being the nice person, been there, done that, right? Where you literally sacrifice yourself on the altar until it's just not possible for you to do what you've been doing anymore. It's not sustainable. Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you don't take yourself to that point. Speak up for yourself, what you want, what you need sooner so that you don't get to the point of resentment, burnout, exhaustion, and where then your speaking up and speaking out comes from more of a negative energy space than one of empowerment, right? It's more of a reactive versus a proactive response. Now, I'm not saying if you're at that point that, oh, you shouldn't speak up. Not saying that at all. I'm just saying that that energy that comes with that, it comes from a totally different space and it's going to require you to take some reflection time to heal from. So we're all, we're in that space, but it's also one where you can grow. It's a part of the growth process so that moving forward, not to allow those lines to get so close to being blurred or just flat out obliterated, right? We don't want that. We don't want that at all. So I want you to engage in that reflection time over the course of this next week or so, and as you prepare to enter into the summer months, and think about where is it that you can speak up for yourself more. And here's where I want you to start, because sometimes we can face that and think, well, I don't know, that's kind of hard to say. How about this? Think about that time or opportunity where you spoke up for yourself, where you felt where you just had to come to this point. You had to speak up for yourself because it was so important to either you maintaining a boundary, to you maintaining a sense of self, to you maintaining your values, whatever the situation was, or where you just literally like you're like, I'm exhausted, I can't take it anymore. I have to say this is not working. Whether it's with family, whether it's with people in your household, a community leadership position, whatever it might be. I want you to pull from that experience, and I want you to pull the things that came up for you where you were like, this is why I had to do it. This is why it's important. Because when you recognize that in one situation, you can use that to cross over and apply it in other situations. And you can use it as a foundational experience to help build yourself up in other areas where you need to be a stronger advocate for yourself. So first look at where you have had experience where you had to speak up for yourself. I don't care with who. And secondly, then you're going to say, where is a space that I need to speak up for myself more? And in the middle is where those experiences that you've had previously and what you learned from it, taking it and how you can apply it to this new or upcoming scenario. Okay? That's it. It's always one of my favorite topics to talk about, and because it's so important to our growth, both personally and professionally. So I'm curious to know about some of your situations, some of your stories. Feel free to share them in the comments or to DM me with them. And if you would like to have a deeper chat about what you could do or setting a plan for yourself, let me know and we can get on a 20-minute little quick, call. There's no charge for that. And we can talk about what it looks like for you to walk in a more empowered space as you move forward to achieving the goals that you have set for yourself. Okay. Take care, everyone. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye bye.